Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports for today's Currie Cup review. A look back at the tournament, some of the top performers, some of the big moments, and just the sort of whole tournament as a whole, and what the competition sort of offered us, and what we thought of everything really. And before we break down the tournament itself, please do subscribe to the channel. We are currently chasing 700 subscribers, so please do smash that subscribe button, smash a like on the video as well. Jump in the comments, let me know what you thought of the tournament. So obviously the Bulls won the overall tournament with a very clinical display yesterday against the Sharks. The Sharks arguably probably should have won the game, and had they made a couple of different decisions and taken points where they could have definitely won. They probably should have won it, but they were left to sort of rue these decisions. A couple of poor kicks from Currie Bosch also did not help the Sharks' cause. But you don't want to sort of try and ever put an entire tournament onto one individual performance. But if you're looking at the Currie Cup as a whole, now obviously it was a bit of a strange competition. We had the Super Rugby unlocked, which kind of operated as a first round of the Currie Cup. Before then, the Currie Cup started with, points already on the table, and most teams already having played 6 games. And it was always going to be a very unique tournament in that it's a unique time of the year, which is why we saw games being called off for lightning. Yesterday, the final had to be stopped for lightning as well. We also saw games being cancelled because of COVID-19. And so I think the biggest thing for the last couple of months, and that was what I've been saying throughout the entire tournament, the biggest thing to focus on is the fact that we have got rugby back on the field, that these players are playing, that they are getting out there, that they are staying fit, that they are putting in the work. And I think the most disappointing thing has probably been the standard of rugby. I think we probably hoped for a little bit better, given some of the players that are still actually playing in the country. But I think what we are starting to see, especially towards the latter stages, is we are starting to see teams form identities. And that was a big thing that somebody like Sean Everett for the Sharks wanted to focus on throughout the tournament. He said that the Super Rugby Unlocked and Currie Cup was all about building a team culture and a team identity. And this is particularly important. And I think in terms of, besides the sort of silverware and the fact that the Bulls have got 2 more trophies to add to their cabinet, this tournament was also a big opportunity to try and justify why SA Rugby have backed 4 sides to go into what will be an expanded Pro 14, Pro 16, whatever the sort of format becomes. It will be the Rainbow Cup in a couple of months, but we don't know if that's going to be the long-term tournament or what's going to happen there. But they had to try and justify why they backed their super franchises to go there and at the expense of the Cheetahs. And they definitely did justify it, because if you look at the table, the Lions finished higher than the Cheetahs, and you couldn't really. And there was that game where the Lions played against the Cheetahs where they absolutely decimated them in Bloemfontein. I think that sort of justified. Right, well, we got it right, because the Western. And to be fair, look, a lot of people were saying that the Lions were the second best side in the competition. I think particularly in the Currie Cup itself, looked very good in some games. They had a very important big win against not a big win, but an important win against Western Province. They had a nice performance against the Sharks as well. So, yeah, but I think the reason the Lions are under pressure is because they were the poorest side in SA in Super Rugby last year. And so SA Rugby had backed those 4 franchises, and the Lions were under a little bit of pressure. But to be fair to the Lions, they've been so good for the last sort of 4 years. It would have been hard to judge them on one season. And then you look at like the Western Province and the fact that the Stormers are sort of perennial underachievers at the moment. But I think SA Rugby have gotten it right, and the sort of performances in some of the games did show that the Cheetahs, whilst very close, aren't quite on the same level as the top 4 sides. In terms of some interesting stats, so in terms of the amount of points scored, the Bulls topped the amount of points scored with 305. After that actually came the Cheetahs with 285. The Lions scored 275 points, the Sharks 274, and the Western Province 272. In terms of the defensive stats, Western Province conceded the joint least for fewest points alongside the Bulls. What is noting, the Bulls did play a game more, so if you had taken out the Bulls' defense was the best, followed by the Lions 221 and the Sharks 244. The Cheetahs conceding 275 points across competition. I think that was the issue. The Cheetahs' defense just wasn't quite good enough. But yeah, and then in terms of players, Currie Bosch finished as the tournament's high scorer. He scored 84 points. Second was Francois Steyn with 76. Tian Swanepoel scored 65. There was help by the fact he was second highest try scorer with 3 tries scored. Morné Steyn scored 62 points in the tournament. In terms of try scorers, we had Edwin Cater who scored 4. Tian Swanepoel with 3. Gideon van der Merwe with 3, Johannes Martins with 3, Bongi Mlambi with 3, Jenny van der Mesh with 3, Spoon Corsi with 3, Alpenke with 3, Willie Engelbrecht 3, Cornerskill Sam 3, and Marco van Staden 3. So this is just looking at the Currie Cup, by the way. This is not including the Super Rugby Unlocked, just the Currie Cup section of the tournament itself. In terms of games, the home wins were 57.4%. There were only 9% drawn games, and away wins were 33%. So there was still a home advantage, and that was quite interesting because people talking about the fact with no crowds, will there still be a home advantage? But what we did see, I think, and specifically probably down relates to the South Africa and the fact that altitude plays such a big role, that you've got teams like the Lions and the Bulls who play at altitude. Even Cheetahs to a certain degree is a slight altitude compared to your coastal sides. And there definitely was an advantage. And we can see there that the home wins were 57%. So there was still definitely a big home advantage, which is interesting actually, and the fact that despite no fans, playing at your own ground, playing at conditions you are used to, still plays a huge role, and that is not simply just having the crowd behind you as a sort of 16th man, or player 23 as they used to be called. But yeah, so and I think if you look at the tournament itself, I think the big worry for me was standard refereeing. I think that needs to improve a lot. I thought Jaco Paper, I don't think he was as bad yesterday as some people are saying. I always hate, it's a pet hate of mine, that as soon as a team wins, the referee has to be a poor performer, because I just think it becomes so easy just to blame an official. I mean, look, Rasta Wenger didn't have a particularly good game in the semi-final, but as a Lions fan, I'll be the first to say the Lions didn't deserve to win that game. They didn't play well enough. It wasn't the case of the refereeing was the reason we lost. Yes, it didn't help, but you look at the amount of knock-ons and the amount of opportunities where the Lions just couldn't find points. That was why they lost, not because of poor officiating. But I do think that officiating as a whole across the competition hasn't quite been as good as we like it. And we just need a couple of fresh faces. I was very impressed with the little bit that we saw of Amy Bergeron. I'm following her quite a lot. And she's sort of risen through the ranks. I think she'll be a good official moving forward. I was quite impressed with what she's had to do in a couple of opportunities she's had. Jaco Paper remains the best referee in South Africa by quite a high margin. And I thought he was pretty good yesterday. A lot of Sharks fans are complaining. And as I said, the problem is it just comes across the sour grapes. I don't think he was that bad. I think that on the balance of play, the Sharks, the Bulls actually conceded more penalties than the Sharks did. So it wasn't a case of this massive sort of penalty difference. So yeah, but in terms of the Currie Cup, I think that it's a competition that we're not going to remember it for phenomenal rugby and these amazing results. We will remember the final. It was an incredible final to go to extra time, and even extra time go right down to the wire. It was a very good game to watch and a very watchable game. A tournament as a whole, the standard I think wasn't particularly good, but as I say, I think a lot of coaches were treating it as a bit of a pre-season as we head towards the Rainbow Cup. My biggest worry is sort of what happens to the Cheetahs, Griquas and Pumas. The Griquas and the Pumas are never going to be able to compete until, first of all, there's a bit of financial injection and until they are playing consistent rugby. When the Griquas and the Pumas took to the field in Super Rugby Unlocked, it was the first time they had played competitive rugby in over a year. And that's the problem. We don't necessarily, we need to decide how are we going to get these teams playing. If it's a Super Sport Challenge Cup, if it's a Vodacom Cup type thing, we need to have a second tier of rugby that is playing competitive rugby throughout this year. And if that means bringing in the universities or bringing in club sides or whatever, we need to try and be creative because we need them playing better rugby. So when it comes to Currie Cup, there is a competitive league. I also think that we need to get our Currie Cup second division operating. Hopefully Eastern Province is trying to sort their issues out. They'll be under the tutelage of Peter de Villiers. But then again, how can we not have an EP side playing in the Currie Cup and with so much talent in the province itself? So a lot of takeaways. I think the main thing was to get on the field, play some rugby, and now it's all about preparing for the Rainbow Cup, preparing for the Lions Tour, whatever might happen, preparing for getting back to international rugby. It was a weird time of year. We don't have to get used to it because the Pro 18 or Pro 16 or whatever they're going to go with will be this sort of time of the year. So and it in itself presents quite a lot of different challenges. So it's a very interesting time. But at the end of the day, we got a decent season of rugby. We got to watch rugby every weekend, which was the main thing. Let me know what you thought of the tournament down below. As I said, please do subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 700 subscribers. Smash a like on the video as well. And I will chat to you very, very soon. My name is Stephen, and thank you very much for watching.